Hey everyone, this is Hope, and I'm just talking to you before Mysidia's video because I hope that you'll be building me and that it'll make an impact on the meta, and I hope that you'll spend Visiore on me and I just don't hang out in your barracks for a year. I really think that I can bring something to the table, so I hope that Mysidia has nice things to say about me. I think there are around 3 players wondering if they should be building Hope, and I really want to make sure that I helped them out with this video. And if you're one of those 3 players, by the way, make yourself known in the comments. Hope is a light element support unit, and I am saying support because he isn't a healer. Sure, he has Cura on his Red Mage sub, but that is not enough. So we all get Hope for free during the collab, but you do have to spend some Visiore on him to max him in the short term. We also get his unique boomerang weapon through the FF XIII bingo, so make sure to grab that regardless if you're planning on using him immediately or not. I want to mention that Hope's greatest application will likely come in PvE, but I do have a bias to rating units based on their PvP potential. That being said, let's talk about Hope's strengths. So Hope is going to be strong against Slash and Magic teams. This is because he can buff Slash and Magic resist of your allies by 30%. So this might include teams like Light Slash, Dark Slash, Earth Slash, that's Earth without an Oberon, and Water teams. Don't feel forced to put Hope onto a Light team. Aside from his Holy Guardian skill, which raises light attack, Hope can buff units of any element. If you have a team that needs a defensive boost, or perhaps haste, then Hope could potentially fit in there. As per usual, I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of Hope, starting with the pros. I really like that he has the Time Mage sub job. That is a big deal for supports, and it means that he can use haste and quicken in both manual and auto PvP and help out in PvE as well. The fact that he raises Slash and Magic resistance by 30% is a huge deal. That's a really big buff, and that could lead to some 100% resistance builds. Yes, we have penetration, but being able to raise your Slash and Magic resist still matters, and penetration does not take away 100% of your resistances. Hope also has this new application of buffing allies' attack, and this is a really interesting addition to the game, especially in a mode where like guild raids or any sort of raid or PvE where you're trying to chain and do a lot of damage, like the trials, because you're able to go beyond what you were previously able to do. So for example, you might be capping as many things like slash attack and like light attack or whatever it is that you're doing with your VCs and your espers, etc. And this is now another modifier to kind of stick on during combat. You can apply more effects to buff your allies, and that is a good thing. It could lead to new high scores. And the fact that he can do it to any element unit, but also still has haste, still has light chaining, that is a pretty big deal. So speaking of which, he has a limit burst with a 3 chain on it. He also has a 20% AoE imperil with a big range, and that can also have pretty big PvE implications. Before we move on to the cons, be sure to like the video because that helps me out a lot with the analytics on YouTube. It's really good to get engagements, and I really appreciate that support from each and every one of you. All right, so for the cons, the biggest one that I can kind of see for PvP is that you're losing a healer or DPS slot because Hope is kind of stuck in this middle zone. Now he is going to attack, and he actually has very high magic, so he could deal some pretty good damage. But at the end of the day, usually when you bring a support unit, they're doing something beyond just the support casts. And I don't think that he's far enough in any camp that you're not losing a spot, because I don't know that the extra damage from his physical attack up or the survivability that he brings is actually enough to warrant him coming over Velis or someone like Lemure. So that's where it's very tricky to see a spot for him in PvP. He's also very squishy, so aside from Magic and Slash, when he buffs himself, he will go down easily, and even if you do buff those, those might help your allies, they're not going to help him nearly as much because he's just not that durable. And the fact that he doesn't have like a nice heal, he can't use the carbuncle heal either, it's a real shame, because that could be a really interesting application for him to at least have like a powerful single target heal, but he has just Cura, and Cura won't cut it in my opinion. So if we want to talk about what he'll be weak against, it's really any team can kill him. What we need to watch out for are the missile and strike and pierce attack types, but also he's got to be in a team with a tank and a hyper carry, because the tank's going to protect him from dying, and then that means the hyper carry, the carry, needs to be really strong to do all the work by themselves, or you need to have two bulky units. I don't think you could have a healer and a DPS with him. I don't think you could have two good DPS that aren't that bulky. You'll need to have multiple bulky units or a tank to run him in PvP. So closing up, there's a few miscellaneous pieces of information to share. I am going to do the quick comparison screenshot that I usually do, and I've chosen Velis and Lemure as the two comparisons. There isn't really a lot to say here, just to see that he is, that kind of has that support stat line. The one big thing you can notice is that he's got a really beefy magic stat at 629, and that he's got a decent magic resist at 15%. Otherwise, he's not terribly accurate. He doesn't have terribly good resistances, and his HP isn't super high or anything. There are a few other things that I like about him. The fact that he has a preemptive counter with the higher chance to proc, but also a 40% crit chance reduction. That's really nice to maybe finish somebody off before they finish him off, or maybe to debuff a critical hit unit and then, help the rest of your team even if Hope dies. I also like that he has a bunch of AoE skills, and the reason that's important is because he's a free unit, and there might be a lot of players that are starting War of the Visions for the first time ever for the Final Fantasy XIII collaboration, and the fact that he could be a really good AoE farmer, if his AI is buffing too much, you can just turn those skills off, and he has a bunch of big diamond AoEs that can help you farm stages and progress your account faster. All right, so in conclusion, should you be building Hope? Should you spend any Visiore on him? I honestly don't think that you should. He's pretty specific of a unit. It's really hard to say to spend your Visiore when there's so many things that we could be spending on. That doesn't mean that he's a bad unit though. So I think that he's definitely a unit that everybody should put in your barracks, because he will come in handy in lots of different game modes. In PvE specifically, the fact that he can do haste and quicken, but also just raise any sort of physical damage dealer's damage, doesn't matter what attack type they are, doesn't matter what element they are, he can buff them. And then specifically in light teams, he's actually going to be able to buff light attack, and he can actually do a 3-hit chaining ability with his limit burst. So even if he just does that one chain to get your light chain count up, and then he spends the rest of the time buffing, then he's already made himself worthy of a spot in a 5-man team, unless you can just make a 5-person light team better because you have a 5th damage dealer. It really depends on the encounter and what kind of things you need to bring to it. But for PvE, he certainly looks really impressive. I don't think that I would put too much stock in him for PvP encounters, although I could totally see some shutdown teams for Slash and Magic working out. That's more of an arena thing. He's definitely could be a powerful magic user because he does get magic resist penetration from his weapon, and he gets some spirit penetration on his job, and with some trust stones you could actually get into a pretty good spot attack wise, but he doesn't have that many attacks, and the ranges are decent, but they're not incredible. They have some cast times, so he's not really meant to be like a top tier attacker or anything like that. So that being said, I'm just saying slow build him. Don't spend your Visiore, but he is a pretty cool unit, even though he's Hope. All right, that's going to be it for me, and I hope that you enjoyed the video, and I hope that you'll comment down below what you think about Hope, because he is an interesting unit, and at the least you have to be happy that Gumi is putting in these different types of units, these unique units that have unique skills, and that's pretty exciting to see new stuff come to the game. So I'm thankful for that. I'm going to be slow building him for sure, and we'll see if I can't get him into a team in a video at some point.